The House will come to order. I recognize the member from Sherburne, Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As usual during this week, it's Law Enforcement Memorial Week, and we have a resolution. I begin it with this. A House resolution commemorating May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week of May 10th through the 16th as Police Week in Minnesota. Whereas thousands of Minnesotans have selflessly stepped forward to safeguard the lives and property of their fellow citizens as peace officers, regardless of the danger to themselves, and
I recognize a member from Ramsey, Representative Moller.
Whereas since December 3rd, 1874, when a Minnesota peace officer was reported killed in the line of duty for the first time, the Minnesota Law Enforcement Memorial Association has recorded 314 peace officers in the state who have made the ultimate sacrifice and given their lives in service to their communities. And
I recognize a member from St. Louis, Representative Johnson P.
Whereas the names of 3 peace officers are being added to this year's Minnesota Law Enforcement Association Memorial Honor Roll, including St. Paul police officer Felicia Riley, who died in the line of duty in 2025, and Ramsey County Sheriff's Deputy Robert J. Clark, and Zumbrota police officer Gary Schroeder Jr., who died in previous years and whose sacrifice is now being recognized. And
I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Hewitt.
Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation designating May 15th as Peace Officer Memorial Day, and the week in which the date falls as National Police Week in honor of those who, throughout their courageous deeds, have lost their lives and have become disabled in the performance of duty. And
I recognize a member from Beltrami, Representative Duran.
Whereas peace officers with the Minnesota Law Enforcement Memorial Association have been standing guard at the Peace Officer Memorial in St. Paul since 6 p.m. on May 14th to honor Minnesota's fallen peace officers. And
I recognize a member from Ramsey, Representative Curran.
Whereas the officers continue to stand guard at the Peace Officer Memorial for the 24 hours leading up to a remembrance ceremony at 7 p.m. on May 15th, 2026, and
I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Whitty.
Whereas we should all pause in our work to honor the peace officers who gave their lives to protect ours, and to thank the 10,890 peace officers in Minnesota who serve in 400 law enforcement agencies for their dedication and services to our community. Now and therefore,
I recognize a member from Scott, Representative Steer.
All right, be it resolved by the Committee of Rules and Legislative Administration of the House of Representatives in the state of Minnesota that it recognizes May 15th, 2026 as Peace Officer Memorial Day in honor of the officers killed in the line of duty, and the week of May 10th to the 16th of 2026 as Police Week in honor of the men and women who, night and day, stand guard in the mist to protect us, and urge all Minnesotans to recognize and support peace officers in their communities.
Reports from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Along from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rule 1.21, designates the following bills to be placed on the calendar for the day for Sunday, May 17th, 2026. Senate file numbers 4401, 334, and 1943. House file numbers 719, 2484, and 2486, and Senate file number 5200.
With no objections, so ordered. Conference Committee reports on House files.
Conference Committee report on House File number 4252, an act relating to higher education. The report is addressed to the Honorable Lisa M. Damuth, Speaker of the House, the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned, conferees for House File number 4252 report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The Conference Committee's report by all 4 members on the part of the House, of the Senate, and all 4 members on the part of the House. Wolgamott moves that the report of the Conference Committee on House File Number 4252 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the member from Benton, Representative Wolgamott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion. We rise to ask for your support for the Conference Committee report on House File 4252, the Higher Education Finance and Policy Bill. Members, there aren't too many drastic changes from the last time this bill was before you. To recap, we have $3 million for identification verification systems in the Min-State system to combat enrollment fraud, also known as ghost students. We have $2.7 million to fund a shortfall gap for the Fostering Independence grants, which will ensure that all foster youth in Minnesota can get a post-secondary education if that's what they choose. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Speaker, we have $5,000 for trees at Bemidji State. That's what's in the bill. I will note with frustration and disappointment that there are exactly $0 in this bill to fund the $131 million hole in the state grant program. We were not able to get a target that would be able to make a dent in that, which is disappointing. But nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, that's our bill, and I would urge members to give it a green vote.
Is there any discussion on the Conference Committee report? I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Thank you, Chair Wolgamott. It was great to work with you, and I agree with how he described the bill. It's a very simple bill. I also share your frustration that we were not able to do something to fix the state grant. Chair Rarick had put forth 4 pages of structural suggestions that were rejected, but this is something that will have to happen in the next legislature. There are several structural problems with the deficit in the state grant that we have to solve, and we owe it to all Minnesota students to do that. But nevertheless, the Fostering Independent Grant Program was enormously important. We're grateful to have been able to plug that hole. Grateful to be able to stop the fraud with the Go Student program that's going to get underway, and we look forward to everyone's support.
Is there any further discussion on the Conference Committee report? I recognize the member from Benton, Representative Wolgamott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, before we go to a vote, I do want to express gratitude and appreciation for all those who made this Conference Committee report happen. To all the members of our Higher Education Policy and Finance Committee in the House, to all of our incredible staff, partisan and nonpartisan, we really do have a dream team that made this happen. Specifically want to thank the conferees, the House conferees, Chair Robbins, Representative Rarick, and Representative Coulter for their contributions, as well as the Senate conferees. Again, not a perfect bill, but there are some good things here. Would urge a green vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on the House files say aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its 3rd reading.
3rd reading, House File Number 4252, as amended by conference.
3rd reading. Any further discussion? I recognize the member from Wright, Representative Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So one thing that was really amazing is we actually did all of our deliberations, all of our negotiations in public. And I would urge this body to adopt that in every single conference committee and every single time you step into a room like that. We did no behind-the-scenes negotiations. Everything was done in front of the public. Now, some of it was a little bit mundane because we had the Office of Higher Education policy bill, but that is the type of work that we should be doing in public. And so I just want to urge this whole body as we move forward into the next, some people are retiring, some people will be returning, but I would adopt that and make sure that we do things publicly. I think that the public deserves that. I do have some concerns about what's in the bill, and we did not address the state grant shortfall. and it's big. And I had talked about this before when this bill was in front of us before. We had a $235 million shortfall just last year. We closed that gap through adding some more money, cutting some programs and reappropriating that money, and then also making some policy changes. And here we find ourselves again in $131 million shortfall again. And I would also remind the body that the Office of Higher Education repeatedly said at least 3 times in the committee that this is actually a structural deficit that we created. In 23, many programs were created, and they are certainly taking off. You know, when you tell kids free college, they come running. So they did, and now we have a big structural deficit. So the other thing I would say is that we had a late breaking issue that came up. We did not hear it in the House. We didn't hear it in the other body. And that was a massive shortfall in the Fostering Independence grant. So these are our foster kids. These are our kids that went through the foster system and have no other support. And so we created about 4 years ago now. My husband actually created it. He told me that over dinner yesterday. That kids that go through the foster system actually can get the cost of attendance. So more than just tuition, fees, books, it's the whole cost of attendance. So it has also taken off like wildfire. It's a much smaller deficit than we were facing in the state grant program, but we were able to almost close that gap. And this was literally a late breaking thing. But we were able to do that because we met in public, because we all had the same goals, which is to take care of kids that nobody else is there to take care of. And so we were very happy. It was just over $2 million. We were able to kind of cobble together to take care of the kids in foster care that have come out of foster care. The other thing I would say as an alum of Bemidji State University and someone that spent 5 years on that campus, and you know, it's one of the most beautiful campuses with all of the trees, and it's the biggest acreage-wise of the whole Mid-State system of all the universities. And when that incredible, horrible storm came through Bemidji and knocked down several million trees, it took down 200 of their most mature trees at Bemidji State University. So I want to give a shout out to Chair Robbins, because she actually came up with a very creative solution to the problem of 200 mature trees being knocked down and decimated. And we actually partnered with the University of Minnesota, and they came up with a hybrid tree that will grow very, very quickly in that climate. So they were developing that up in Duluth. So for $5,000, not $800,000, which is what we were asked for, we're able to replace all 200 trees, and in about 5 years' time, they will have a canopy again. So we are replenishing and partnering and making Bemidji State University beautiful again. So I'm very proud as an alum to make sure that we took care of them. So, you know, if we can put in 200 trees for $5,000, I'll do that any day. And I also would say, you know, in honor of former Speaker Melissa Hortman, I believe that she also would care a lot about that we are planting 200 trees and making it beautiful again at Bemidji State. So I was very happy to accomplish that. The one thing that, like I said, that is challenging is that we didn't fix anything with the state grant program. We didn't have any money to fix it, and we changed no policy, so that big deficit remains. The other thing I know that is concern on my side of the aisle in particular is that we are still not prioritizing Minnesota students, and those that are here illegally are still getting all of the grant programs. And so while it's not a lot of money, it's about $3 million a year, we are still prioritizing people that are here illegally over our Minnesota students. So I know that is of great concern, and I just want to be upfront and tell you that there is no change. And I probably will be a no again on this bill because it really hasn't changed from when we were here before. We didn't fix anything with the state grant, and we still have, we're prioritizing students that are here illegally over our own Minnesota students. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the time.
Any further discussion? I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just wanted to add our thanks to all the committee members, to the colleagues in the other body who served on the conference committee with us, and also our partisan and nonpartisan staff. Our nonpartisan staff are extraordinary, Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Savory, and our partisan staff, Garrick Spenwin, Ellie Wasserman and Jesse McCardle, and Sean from the other side of the aisle. They've worked together fabulously. We've had a great relationship, and we truly appreciate all the hard work on behalf of Minnesota students. So with that, I appreciate everyone's time, and we hope for a green vote.
Any further discussion? I recognize the author, the member from Benton, Representative Wolgamott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members, for the thoughtful discussion. Let's bust the ghost students and combat enrollment fraud. Let's make sure that our foster students have the opportunity to seek higher education. Let's plant some trees. Let's vote green. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The chief clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Burkle.
Go.
Burkle, no.
Burkle votes no. Davis.
You're on.
No.
Davis.
Do it again. Davis votes no.
Davis votes no. Momani Hiltzley.
Momani Hiltzley, aye.
Momani Hiltzley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 101 yeas and 33 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to. Messages from the Senate.
A message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments the concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House File Number 3825, an act relating to public safety. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodern, Secretary of the Senate. Repinski moved that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 3825 and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Senate.
Members, I'll remind you to take your conversations off the House floor into the alcoves or the retiring room. I recognize the member from Winona, Representative Repinski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a vehicle bill with the missions of reducing crime, supporting and strengthening victims' rights, and this will make Minnesota a better place for us to live, work, raise a family, and retire safely. I concur with the Senate amendments, and I ask members for a green vote.
Is there any discussion on the Senate amendments? There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendment say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by the Senate.
Third reading, House File Number 3825, as amended by the Senate.
Third reading. Further discussion. I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill has come back as a vehicle with the package of 12 scope of practice bills, and request of the moment, want to second the motion for concurrence. Members, advancing scope of practice bills hones our workforce and improves care. And sometimes there are long gaps between these scope of practice updates. So we've had a busy session working on these areas, and we have quite a few authors and bills here. We have scope of practice bills from licensure and practice of acupuncture, athletic trainer, massage therapy, mortuary science internship, mortuary science reciprocal licensure, music therapy, social work titling protection, board of dentistry, modifying marriage and family therapy, pharmacist prescribing and physical therapy, along with an APRN postgraduate practice requirement revision. So a lot of work. When authors take this on, there's a lot of work and time spent working across different professions and concurring and making sure that these scope of practice work in practice. And just want to commend the authors on both sides of the aisle who have done great work to get these bills in the shape they're in. So it's been a good session for scope updates, and I urge members to support this package of scope bills. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further discussion? I recognize the member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Yes, members. Good focused bill. With these scope bills, it's always important to update it because it's important to our constituents that they're getting the right type of health care from the right type of people at the right type of location. So, good bill. I would ask members to vote green. Thank you.
Further discussion? I recognize the member from Olmsted, Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Well, I have a pretty good idea that this bill is going to pass, but I have to say that the wonderful things that we've just heard from some members about what this would do, you know, scope of practice only does that if you do it well and if you pay attention to what you're doing. And there, in this package, there are a couple of things that I absolutely would want to support and vote for. But I just really want to say to members, I mean, I'm not going to revisit the whole acupuncture scope debate because you heard that. I talked to the Board of Medical Practice about this. In my view, they just let it go through without really giving it much scrutiny, and I'm afraid that that's kind of what we've all done here, and that we're doing real damage to our healthcare system when we expand scope in ways that are not thought through, that are not properly defined. We are hurting our healthcare system, not helping it, and I'm afraid that too many of the things in this bill are doing exactly that. So even though I know that many of you are just going to go ahead and vote for this bill, I urge you to vote no. None of this has to happen right now. I mean, there are some things in here I would very much like to see happen, but what I really want to say to you all is that as we go forward into the next session and beyond, we need to seriously rethink the way we're doing scope of practice. Because scope of practice should never be about which groups want to bring us a bill. You know, this is something where their job is to tell us what they want, and our job is to give it scrutiny and analysis and ask the question, is this good for the people of Minnesota? And I'm afraid that too many of the things in this bill before us are not good for the people of Minnesota in various ways. So I urge a no vote, and certainly, even if you vote for this bill today, I certainly hope that you'll learn more about this topic and in the future be very skeptical about what scope of practice expansion bills or change bills are, or new licensing bills for that matter, are being brought to this body. Thank you.
Further discussion? I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. I want to stand up and make sure I thank most of you. I think many people signed on to the athletic trainer scope. Also, the two other, and I really appreciate Representative Liebling's statements here. However, one of the themes that I always use when I evaluate a scope of practice is accessibility and affordability. Those are the two areas that are we improving on, and then we have to look at what the scope actually is. Are these people trained to do what we're going to let them do? Definitely in the athletic trainer scope, this took a few years to get here. They really proved themselves, they testified, and we checked out their training. They're ready for that modification. Mortuary science, we're really at a standstill with that one because people are not going into mortuary science. And that concerned me, especially in our rural communities. So these two bills actually are going to give us some information for our years to come to make sure that what do we want to do about mortuary science? Do we want to modify it? We'll see if these can fill out the need for morticians throughout the state, but hopefully we'll get there. So members, thank you for your support. I recommend a green vote.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. And I want to thank all the authors who did the work on these licensing bills. And Representative Liebling is right. Licensing bills are difficult, and I've said it on the floor a number of times. And in committee, it's, you know, we are, as legislators, we shouldn't be doing, we should be very careful when we're talking about scopes of practice for our medical, and these are all for medical professionals. But I also want to push back because, you know, we do take testimony, and it's not about just, you know, trying to, you know, move the interest of a particular entity forward. It's about trying to find that balance, and I think this bill does a pretty good job of that. And every author that is in this little package and very focused package of health licensure have really done that. You know, the acupuncture bill that Representative Gilman has, she worked very closely with the, you know, with the acupuncture people, making sure that that language is tight. We actually had, we took some amendments in you know, from the ophthalmologist to make sure that the cold laser that acupuncturists use is not used around the orbital structure. Athletic trainers, you know, cleaning up this language that hasn't been touched for years, making sure that those important people for all of our schools are able to practice, and even for short periods of time at special events, hockey tournaments, soccer tournaments, you know, the physical therapists. You know, we basically changed, you know, that assistance and kind of modified the on-site component that's necessary for these, allowing these individuals to practice at the highest level of their training. And I could go on and on. Representative Hansen has been working on title protection for social workers. And there's a lot of people that this was a controversial issue. And, you know, she worked really hard to find that balance to protect long-standing social worker titled people at counties, and making sure that moving forward, they have the educational and training requirements in place to be called a social worker. And those are good bills, members. And I'm going to stop. There's not that many more in here. And Representative Hewitt was talking about the mortuary stuff and the massage therapists. I mean, that's been coming back and forth to us for a number of years. And we've got a lot of different cities that are regulating massage therapy in different ways. And did this bill go far enough for some? No. Did it go too far for others? Yes. Maybe when it does that, we're kind of hitting the right spot at the right time. And so it creates some certification requirements so that local units of government have something to rely on when they want to regulate massage therapists coming into their community. And so with that, members, I really do want to thank all the authors that worked so hard on these licensure bills. They're very technical, and they did a great job. Members, vote green on this bill.
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I do want to stand up and support this bill. All of the co-authors and authors who've been playing a role in making this bill come to the floor. In particular, I want to thank Representative Freiberg for his bill regarding music therapists. When my son was in the hospital in the NICU, they were actually conducting a study regarding music therapy and how that would impact particular NICU babies, whether it be their oxygen saturations, their heart rates, how they responded to different treatments, and even different pain tolerances that they were able to withstand. And there was some really promising work that came out of that study. Music therapy, we watched it in real time. Any night that he would have music therapy, his saturations would be much better than if he didn't. And we had them every third day. So we looked forward to the nights where we had music therapy in the NICU, knowing that Rose would come in and play her guitar and soothe our son to sleep. So I do want to thank Representative Freiberg for that provision, as well as several other authors, Representative Hewitt. I've worked alongside a lot of these athletic trainers. I've seen them in real time, in college and in high school, and they do great work. So rewarding them, this is all common sense stuff. So I want to thank everybody who's worked on this, and I'd suggest a green vote. Thank you.
I recognize a member from St. Louis, Representative Warwas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Bianca Vernig, Representative Vernig, for the bill that we worked on together with the advanced practice nurses. You know, the bill made it into this final bill, and even though it's amended, I think it's still going to make a great deal of be a great deal of help to rural Minnesota and to the advanced practice nurses and getting them to transition into practice. And that means a lot to me. This was the first scope of practice bill I've ever gotten to work on, and I would just like to note the true bipartisan effort and the hard work that went into it. I know that Rep. Vernig has carried this bill for a number of years, and I know she said another representative carried it before her. And I don't think maybe this work is done, but it's vastly improved. Obviously, our Senate partners changed some things, but it's still a good bill. It's a great bill. So I just want to thank Representative Vernig for that and for bringing me into it with her. We heard it on the Republicans Committee Day, but it was her bill. I think that shows a lot of good faith. And I want to thank Chair Bierman and Chair Backer for signing on to our effort and just being so very helpful. So that's all I got to say.
I recognize a member from St. Louis, Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I, too, just want to thank the authors of these bills. I think that since I came into the legislature, many of these bills have been talked about for a long time. The social worker bill, I want to thank Representative Hansen for her work on that and her conversations with me. I think that a lot of these reciprocity bills are going to help us, and the nurse practitioner. This is one topic that I received emails on about every one of these. So that tells me that there was a lot of good work on this. So I want to thank the members that offered these bills and urge a green vote. Thank you.
I recognize yet another member from St. Louis, Representative Saraba.
We're going to knock them out tonight, the St. Louisers. Thank you. I rise in support. I would be remiss not to thank the chairs, both chairs. That's a great bill. The mortuary intern bill that Representative Hewitt did. One morning I'm on my walk and this gentleman calls me, and he's a mortuary owner, business owner. And for 1 hour I learned what's wrong with the mortuary science right now, and this bill is going to help him, and all of them help a lot. And we need this in Minnesota. We need it bad. So I just, if this was alone, I would vote at that alone. But because it's part of everything here, it's a great bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please vote green.
I recognize a member from Rock, Representative Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Marriage and family. This face. Vote yes.
I recognize a member from Meeker, Representative Gilman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to just point really quick to, again, the fiscal cost of this bill. Zero cost to the state. This bill is going to make life more affordable, bring in more access for folks for anything from mental health to physical health and well-being. I am excited that the dentist, the House File 3516, Schumacher's bill, got brought in. Again, dental care is health care, and I'm excited that with the expanse of dentists being able to supervise 8 hygienists and their expanded duties availabilities, that they'll make Minnesotans more healthy here in Minnesota. So again, really excited. The rub that we experience in the legislature, in the hard questions, and the stakeholder engagement, and the folks that will not agree with us has made me a better legislator. And I'm grateful for the questions, and some that I don't even get answers for until the last minute. But this has made me a better legislator, and I'm super excited that we were able to bipartisanly work together to get things done, and that the Senate supported this as well. Please vote green.
Is there any further discussion on repassage of House File 3825? I recognize a member from Ramsey, Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a concern about the bill, the section regarding massage therapy licensure. I had introduced a bill regarding that. And as I read the bill on pages 38 and 39, the bill would preempt municipal regulation of massage therapy. A number of our communities license that practice right now. There are concerns of a variety regarding that practice. As I read the bill, it appears to preempt, well, certainly by its terms, would preempt a municipal licensure of massage therapy in most cases. And I'll just maybe note that that is a concern of mine, and I think would be a concern of a number of people as well. Lacking some confidence regarding that, I personally will be a no vote. I understand folks may be supportive, but I do want to express that concern about this change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any further discussion on the repassage of House File 3825? Seeing none, I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Winona, Representative Repinski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, want to thank all the people that said thank you this evening, and I think we've heard enough thank yous, so I would advise everyone to please vote green.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll.
Well, I'll give you one goes to her and another goes to you.
Members, please vote. The clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Burkle.
Go.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Davis. Davis.
Davis votes no.
Davis votes no. Momani Hildsley.
Momani Hildsley, aye.
Momani Hildsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 123 yeas and 10 nays, the bill is repassed and its title agreed to. Conference Committee reports on House files.
Conference Committee report on House File number 4188, an act relating to commerce, modifying various consumer protections. The report is addressed to the Honorable Lisa M. Damuth, Speaker of the House, the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned conferees for House File number 4188, report that we've agreed upon the item disputes and recommend as follows. The report is signed by 4 out of the 4 members on behalf of the House and signed by 4 out of the 4 members on behalf of the Senate. Koegel moves that the report of the Conference Committee on House File number 4188 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the maker of the motion, the member from Anoka, Representative Koegel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House File 4188 definitely came back, in my opinion, a bit better. We were able to adopt some of the Senate provisions, such as removing the Prescription Drug Affordability Council. This was established in 2023 with the in conjunction with Prescription Drug Affordability Board, but it was never funded, so that's budget neutral. We also have some non-depository institution licensing provisions. We have a provision from Representative Falconer restricting the use of AI to deny prior authorizations. We were able to get a Representative Hansen bill in that fairly reimburses trainees for alcohol, mental health, and chemical dependency services. We were able to get a Representative David's provision in for short-term, long-term care insurance, Representative Perryman's travel insurance. We have some some provisions around substantial enrollment growth on health plans, as well as some HMO data sharing between commerce and health. We are improving some insurance and prescription drug data sharing between commerce and health as well. Also doing some cost containment, getting some cost containment data from state agencies and other government units. Short-term rental guarantees and reimbursements. We are also updating some dealer broker and investment advisor regulations, updating outdated rules, getting some franchise disciplinary fixes in, crowdfunding regulations. We have some technical changes from the Department of Commerce. We have also updated some of the unclaimed property. We were able to get Representative Lee's increase in the size of the Consumer Fraud Restitution Fund and also establishing kind of a prorated for victims. We updated the liquor bill effective date. We wanted to make sure that we got that before summer ended. So we will be affecting a lot of those dates at the beginning of the year. We also have a review of the home care nursing mandate benefit, which I will speak a little bit further on in third reading. And we were also able to include the increasing the limits on meat raffles, so buy your tickets for that beef tenderloin, and also including the Hessenpfeffer, I think I finally said it right, provisions in this bill. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? I recognize the member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I urge adoption.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to adopt the conference committee report signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading. Third reading. Discussion. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Falconer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, everybody. I'm pretty excited about this. This is my first bill to get across the finish line on denying pre-authorization requests via AI. Companies have been doing this for a while. A computer program has been errantly issuing about 90% of denials when their physicians request the pre-authorization, causing an incredible amount of pain and expense to people. Some of the most egregious examples, preemie babies weren't approved for oxygen, seniors being kicked out of specialized inpatient care, surgeries being canceled, medications not being paid for. And when 90% of these are wrong, this is something that we can do that's really going to save some lives and save some money for a lot of people. So thanks for, I hope we can vote green on this. And I just also wanted to say thank you for Chair O'Driscoll for using your gavel time to let me present this bill and to help get it through into the final package. So thanks so much.
Any further discussion? I recognize a member from Fillmore, Representative Davids.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and I would really like to thank Co-Chair Koegel, Co-Chair O'Driscoll for this bill, and I just want to speak shortly about one provision. It's kind of an oxymoron. It's short-term, long-term care, and that's what it is. And long-term care policies are extremely expensive. With the short-term, long-term care that all the states around us have, people will be able to afford this policy here, and what they'll do is it's going to save farms, it's going to save small businesses, it's going to save families from having to spend down their assets. This bill, that part of the bill, will save the state millions and millions of dollars every year because it's going to be longer before they go, hit the numbers for the spend down, and like I said, it's going to save the state a lot of money. So, Co-Chair Koegel, Co-Chair O'Driscoll, thank you. This is a great bill for the state of Minnesota.
Further discussion. I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Katiza-Wattoon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, usually when we say for all those folks watching at home, and I don't know if many people are ever watching, but today I have confirmed that former Representative Brian Farr is watching. Hi, Brian. We miss you. And I just wanted to stand up and say that this was a constituent bill of Representative Farr's, and I'm really happy to see Hassenpfeffer finally getting approved and getting over the finish line. This means that he will have to teach me how to play Hassenpfeffer, and I will have to teach him to learn to finally play cribbage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, chairs, for a great bill. Vote green.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the co-chairs O'Driscoll, co-chair Koegel. Thanks for putting the meat raffle in there. And I'll just say it sounds very lighthearted, and I've had some ribbing from people in the district who say, well, meat raffles are apparently saving the world. Good job, Nash. Thanks for being unserious. Here's what this will allow. We all have charitable gambling associations through like Legions or VFWs or places like that. The Carver County Charitable Gaming Association, and Representative Ream, you're part of this, and Representative Harder, they donated over $1 million into Carver County in calendar 25. And I think that putting this in there, because it hit some speed bumps along in the ways, you may have seen that, but this is going to allow those organizations to do even more good for things like youth soccer associations, youth softball. They've sponsored honor flights to take veterans out to Washington, D.C. So I just wanted to say thank you to the two co-chairs, and this is just a really good thing to put into this bill. So once again, thank you and vote green.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Sensor-Murrah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I never thought that I would find myself signing on after Representative Altendorf to a Representative Nash bill, but I love meat. There's a great meat raffle in my district, and so I really appreciate the co-chairs for including this in the final package. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Stearns, Representative Perryman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my 4th year on the Commerce Committee, and I am a business owner, as you all know, so this has been like a dream come true to be able to be on this committee and learn so much from Representative O'Driscoll. Not only do I live close to Representative O'Driscoll in our area, but I was assigned on his committee my freshman year and was pretty excited. So as I said, as a business owner, this hits home a lot. And a lot of bills come through Commerce, from health issues to business issues, insurance issues. So this is a great bill. This is a good bill. I also want to say that we had great collaboration. I really felt the collaboration in our committee throughout the process and working together with respect and due diligence. So I thank Representative, Chair Koegel on letting me step onto her bill for the kiosks as well, the crypto kiosks. And I have other commerce bills that got passed in this bill, and I'm pretty excited at this point. But I want to conclude by saying that I am going to miss Chair Representative O'Driscoll. He is retiring, and I always told him he's the brother I always wanted. He has been such a teacher to me. I think a lot of the people on the Commerce Committee can say that they learned a ton of stuff from Representative O'Driscoll. So maybe I'm not supposed to do this, but I will miss him, and I'm going to tell you what, this caucus is going to miss his intellectual capital as well. So just bear with me for that, and I think it is a great bill. Vote green.
Any further discussion on the repassage of House File 4188? I recognize a member from Ramsey, Representative Lee Kay.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. I just want to take a couple moments to thank Chair Koegel and the rest of the conference committee for helping us move along a policy piece that passed the Senate in a finance bill, and it was kind of caught up in like the weird limbo that a lot of our bills are caught up at the end of session. Basically, last year, thanks to a bipartisan effort from members in the House and the Senate, we passed a really good consumer fraud protection fund that allows people, particularly vulnerable folks like seniors and maybe even students who need to take on a lot of student loans to go to school, to find a way to get restitution when they have been defrauded. And so this year we were able to make more tweaks to make sure that this fund helps even more folks in Minnesota. And I really thank the collaboration of all of our researchers and members in the conference committee to help move this forward and make this fund even better. So thanks. Vote green.
Any further discussion? I recognize the member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I do encourage a green vote on this bill. And I just want to, again, give a big shout out to the team, Commerce in the Minnesota House, and we'll even include the Senate in this. I want to thank the guys over here, Sam and Eric and Alex from the DFL side. You guys, when we needed help and our folks were maybe not available, it was not a problem to go and ask you guys questions and for your team to come and ask our team questions. And that's what people have sent us here to do, is to work together. And I think we've had a role model and been role models on that. I want to thank Karen, who is our CLA on the Republican side, Jesse, our researcher, and Ben, our CA. Great, great people. The same thing that we are able to do with the DFL side when we have questions, they were able to do on the GOP side. And I think that speaks volumes of the leadership that we put together and the team that we've been able to assemble in the Commerce Committee. And when we joined with the Senate, I had the opportunity to work with Senator Klein last year and with the team over there, and we met regularly to talk about things and how to get the people's business done. Not our individual interests, but the people's business done. And I know that Chair Koegel is going to talk about a provision that was not in this bill, and we worked very hard to try to vet out what was going on with critical kids and insurance coverage. And we finally got the department to speak to us about what happened, and it was too late for us to really do the right work that needed to be done this year. So we've put in a directive to the department to work with the Department of Health and Human Services to come back with solutions on this and to do a 62J review of this. And I'm very leery about putting patches on major things at the end of session. Last year in the pension bill, I beat my fist on the table and said, do not adopt the duty disability stuff, because we need a work group. We need to get this right. And folks, 1 year later, I hate to say it, but I was right in the pension bill. We are putting a work group together. That will help us get to the right solution. This will help us get to the right solution. And so again, Co-Chair Koegel, thank you. We did not have 2 years together. We had 1 year together. It does not seem like 2 years together, but you have been a fabulous partner in this, and we've lived by 3 simple rules. I may come to you with ideas, and you tell me no, I have to take you at face value. Number 2, you may come to me with great ideas that you see, and I may not be able to bring you the votes, and I have to, and you have to live with that. And we always said, cards on the table, don't mislead me. If you can't do something or it's not going to work, up front, let's get that taken care of, and let's go to stuff that we can. This committee has been able to pass about 10 or 11 standalone bills, plus the items that you heard here today. That's what the people sent us here for, and that's what we think we have delivered in this bill. The final thing I want to say, and I want to direct this to Chair Katiza-Wattoon, and that is I'm very cautious about the Hassen-Pfeffer game that you want to learn how to play because of my past experience and longevity in this chamber. Please do not ask them to teach you how to do that in the retiring room.
Any further discussion? I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Anoka, Representative Koegel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think from the sparse laughter, there might not be very many people that understand that joke anymore. But you know, this is a really good bill. It actually was something that we did as a team. We all had our special issues that we wanted to see get across the finish line, but when it came down to it, we had our Venn diagram of issues that we agreed on, and we made a choice not to take any hostages. Let's just put it that way. And so, even though there's provisions in here provisions that didn't get across the finish line that I was very attached to, and I know Chair O'Driscoll had some provisions as well that he was very attached to, for the good of this bill, we went forward with it. So just a few things that I want to talk about, and I also want to just make sure I get this off first. Sam, Eric, Jesse, Ben, Karen, Alex, you guys are the real heroes. You guys are the ones that actually did all the work. You know, we're just the idea people, but you guys are the ones that execute it. And without you and nonpartisan staff, Lori Pompu and Solvik Beckel from House Research, and of course the Senate too, a little bit, we really wouldn't be able to get this work done. And I think that's really important for everybody at home to know, is that though these folks are the ones that are really running this place. So just a few things that didn't make it into this bill that I'm pretty disappointed in. We weren't able to get the sweepstakes language across the finish line. I was really hoping that since you know, we were able to get some of the GOP provisions in with the meat raffle and Hassenpfeffer. Apparently it's a German stew. Too bad, Representative. Anyway, that we weren't able to get, that we were hoping that we could, you know, get sweepstakes and those all tied together and get some responsible gaming stuff. Representative Rarick, I was really glad to hear that you guys were able to take care of kids in your bill, especially the kids that no one else does. In commerce, I fought as hard as possible to get life-saving nursing care to the most vulnerable, medically fragile children in Minnesota. And these are people that only certain people can take care of because they need the skilled nursing services. I just want to apologize to those families that I failed and that I was not able to gather the votes needed to push that provision across the finish line. We had a majority of conference committee members supporting it, but we couldn't add the language that would keep these kids safe at home. And so with that provision not included, I want to be 100% clear of the ramifications of this decision about what not including this language means to families. It means that families will not get enough care for their home care nursing services. They won't get the hours approved that they have had approved for the past 15 years. You know, the health plans must have hired some slicker lawyers and misconstrued the difference between home care services and home care nursing. The statute, and I'm just going to read it because I want to make sure everybody understands. 62Q.545, coverage of home care nursing. Home care nursing services provided under Section 526B.0625, Subdivision 7, with exception of Section 256B.0645, Subdivision 4, shall be covered under a health plan for persons who are concurrently covered by both the health plan and are enrolled in medical assistance under Chapter 56B. Let me read that again. Home care nursing services shall be covered under health plans for persons who are concurrently covered by both health plan and enrolled in medical assistance. I don't understand why we aren't providing that. I don't understand why we're allowing health insurance companies to skirt the statutes. One of the families texted me yesterday to express their disappointment that we were able to prioritize meat raffles and granny happy hour over their children getting the life-saving medical care that they need to keep them safe at home. I also want to make people aware that this will cause these children to end up in ICU beds here in the state of Minnesota. 250 families with this that are going to be hit by this. Children's Hospital, a physician at Children's Hospital told me that they're very worried about the upcoming flu respiratory season because of these children will be now taking up some of these beds. So therefore, our kids won't have the ability to access these ICU beds when they're in an accident or get sick. Number two, without this private coverage, these families will decide to not purchase it. what's the point of purchasing private health insurance when it's not covering what you expected it to cover? So they will forego private health insurance and put their families on the traditional Medicaid waiver. We heard from Health Partners that it's $187 million a year to cover these kids. I'm leaving. A lot of you guys are going to be staying here. So next year, buckle up, because the waiver budgets are going to get blown. So I just want everybody to kind of sit with that. Kids will be hurt. They won't be able to stay in their homes. And it will cost the state more money. It's a shame that we weren't able to provide that provision in this bill. And again, I want to say to the families, the Walters especially, who have been working so hard on this, I'm sorry. It's not the way I wanted to go out. That being said, again, Chair O'Driscoll and I made a choice that we were going to pass good legislation. We weren't going to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So I hope that these families can find a solution so that we can keep their kids home and safe. But with that, I will still encourage a green vote on this bill. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the Chief Clerk will take the roll on House File 4188. Members, please vote. The clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Davis.
Davis votes no.
Davis votes no. Momani Hiltsley.
Go.
Momani Hiltsley, aye.
Momani Hiltsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 121 yeas and 13 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to. Reports from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Report from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration. Niska and Long for the Committee on Rules and Legislation offer the following resolution and moved its adoption. Be it resolved by the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration that the calendar for the day notice requirement under House Rule 1.21 is waived effective after May 16th, 2026.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is the resolution that allows us, if we need to calendar a bill tomorrow to be taken up tomorrow. Obviously, we have to pass any bills by the end of the day, by midnight tomorrow night. So this is just a housekeeping thing to allow us the flexibility if that's needed. There aren't currently any bills intended to be calendared, but it's for that flexibility.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Long.
I concur.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. Motions and resolutions. Members, there are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail. Motions and resolutions.
Niska moves that House File number 2438 be taken from the table, that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 4 members of the House, and that the House requests that a like committee be appointed by the Senate to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses.
I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. That's my motion. It's to allow for a conference committee report to be able to finish out the agreement that we've had to get our work done by tomorrow night.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge support of the motion.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. Announcements by the Speaker.
The Speaker announced the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on House File number 2438. Davids, Joy, Gomez, and Agbaje.
Motions and resolutions.
Pursuant to House Rule 1.21 and the notice given on Tuesday, May 12, 2026, Dippel moves that House File number 3785 be placed on and be considered first on the calendar for the day for Sunday, May 16, 2026.
I recognize a member from Washington, Representative Dippel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion, and I would like to request a roll call.
Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Dippel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill came about in a way that many bills have in our state, and that is, unfortunately, through tragedy. I have a constituent who was struck from behind by an electric motorcycle. And those of you who were in the Transportation Committee saw that body cam footage from the police and medical personnel who responded. She was knocked unconscious and was laying bloody on the sidewalk, and unfortunately had brain hemorrhaging, spent a great deal of time in the hospital. She'll never taste or smell again. And this brought to light an issue that we have here in Minnesota and across the country, really, because we've had an explosion of e-bikes and electric motorcycles. And that's a great thing. We want people to get out. We want people to enjoy our natural resources, our sidewalks, and our lakes and our rivers. We want kids to be able to travel to their fishing spots. I see them on a daily basis living on the river. They travel to their favorite fishing spots and get to enjoy that. But we want those liberties to be enjoyed while not endangering the lives and taking the liberty from them. And so with that, what this bill does is a couple really positive things, actually. One positive item that it does is it gives a pathway for electric motorcycles that already exist, that have been manufactured. It gives them a pathway to become street legal. So if you think about a motorcycle that's gasoline powered going down the road, you'd imagine it to go down the road in the proper way, whether it have blinkers or a license plate, things of that nature. But you wouldn't imagine it going down the sidewalk, because motorcycles don't belong on the sidewalk, as we know. And it gives other stipulations around electric bicycles that have the same power as a moped. You would probably be aghast if you saw a moped that has between 1 and 2 horsepower traveling down the sidewalk and ducking in and out of people that are trying to enjoy their evening walk or their morning walk. So this bill focuses on a hole that exists in Minnesota. As we see the explosion of the usage of e-bikes, of electric bicycles, and electric motorcycles, our legislation needs to catch up to that, to make sure that Minnesotans and our constituents can enjoy these things without being hindered in an unnecessary manner. Now, this bill started out getting all the stakeholders together. It garnered bipartisan support, and just 2 days ago, unfortunately, I lost an author on the bill from the other side of the aisle. And of course, it makes you shrug your shoulders and wonder, why did I lose support of that individual when we had bipartisan support from multiple groups, from bike groups, from motorcycle groups, from all the different groups that would have anything to do with this. When our public safety officials are asking for clarity on this and a pathway for this to be brought forward in Minnesota to clarify statute so they understand how should they enforce the law. Should we have motorcycles driving down the sidewalk? Well, no, of course we shouldn't, but we should define that clear in statute. All these stakeholders came together. DPS willing to absorb costs. DNR willing to put up signs for trails for, in essence, electric dirt bikes. And the list went on and on and on, and we drafted all the amendments, and we continued to talk to all the stakeholders, and we had all the momentum that we needed, but unfortunately this place doesn't always put the needs of our constituents first. Oftentimes politics comes first, and that is really, really unfortunate when that happens. I have amendments drafted to address concerns that Chair Youakim brought up in Ways and Means about the weight of some of these different devices. So they're high enough and people don't get outlawed on the different parts of mobility that they want to utilize. We want this. We want people to get out in Minnesota and utilize these. There are more people getting out on bicycles now than ever before in Minnesota, and that's a good thing. But again, we have amendments. We can suspend the rules tomorrow with an agreement and take up these amendments. We can fix any issue that any member has on the other side of the aisle with this. And we can do that expeditiously and quickly for the sake of Minnesotans and our constituents. We can do the right thing here in this chamber. We don't need to politicize a common sense issue this way. These accidents have increased by over 800% in the last few years. 800%. And many law enforcement officials say, well, we didn't really even know how to classify this after it happened. Do we say this was a Class 1 e-bike or a Class 2 or a Class 3, or was this something we don't even have a name for right now? We don't even have a name for an electric motorcycle, an e-moto in Minnesota. How do we classify this? This would clarify that. This passed out of transportation unanimously. It passed out of Ways and Means unanimously. And there was agreement on this bill to move it forward and to take a vote. Members, I ask and implore you to put partisan politics aside and support legislation that before 2 days ago had bipartisan support. Members, vote green.
Any further discussion? I recognize the member from Scott, Representative Tabke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And first, I just want to say thank you to Representative Dippel for the work and the urgency that this has. This is an issue that I believe that most everyone here in the chamber has heard from law enforcement, from their communities, from counties, and from cities, and something that we really wanted to get done this year. But unfortunately, this bill still has some language issues that do need to get worked out that have not gotten worked out as of yet. And so those are around definitions. It effectively bans Class 3 e-bikes. It makes licensing for trailers more expensive for transporting them. And then one of the last things is it uses money from the Environment Committee that has not had a stop in the Environment Committee. The Environment Committee has not allowed that to happen. So there are a couple of different reasons to not do this, and this needs to have a no vote today because this bill is not ready to be written into law, and so we would like to have a no vote on this, and it is not ready to be brought up. And we would like a roll call on this, Mr. Speaker.
Seeing 15, there already is a roll call. Representative Tabke.
Well, I'm very glad we have a roll call. I appreciate that. So again, thank you very much, everyone. And again, thank you, Representative Dippel. This is not a political issue. This is not anything. The language simply is not there, as based on many conversations that we have had over the course of the last few months. So I appreciate your work on it, but I do not agree that this bill is ready to move forward. So I ask for a no vote on this bill.
I recognize a member from Washington, Representative Johnson W.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I just happened to yesterday, my daughter graduated from Century College yesterday, and they had a officer there from White Bear Lake, and he was there doing security. So as I always do, I just go out and have a chat and see how things going and let them know that we support them. And I asked him, what is the top thing that's going on right now? And it was this topic. It was e-bikes. They are getting overwhelmed, and I really encourage you to go out and talk to some members from your law enforcement. They are dealing with this nonstop. Cottage Grove right now is in the middle of it, and they're doing extra stopping kids and trying to do informational and stuff like that. You can't go down a street, at least in the cities here, without seeing them just going this way and that way and stuff like that. And it's good to be a kid, but it's getting to the point where it's putting other people in danger. They are now going through and thinking they have priority over automobiles. In the city of Cottage Grove, they know they're going to have some more accidents on it. So this is something that is your law enforcement, your police forces and stuff are dealing and putting at the top. It's putting a lot of people in danger. I don't see how we can wait another year and do this, because this has taken up a lot of time, a lot of resources, putting people in danger, and it's going to just create more and more issues in your communities. All you have to do is watch your Facebook and see the comments in the different community pages of what's going on back and forth. Please, members, let's not put this off for another year. Put more people in danger, people afraid to go on the trails, people afraid to go on the sidewalk. It's just setting to have accidents between cars and bikes. We can't allow this to go another year and be able to then sit there and read the stories and say, boy, I wish we could do something. I wish somebody would do something about it, knowing that we could have done something today. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to Representative Dippel for bringing this. I believe that we've all heard stories that might not be as tragic as the one that Representative Dippel shared that we saw in the headlines not too long ago, but we will hear shortly if we don't address this. Representative Johnson is 100% right to that. And to Representative Tabke's quarrels with this bill, would he yield to a question?
He'll yield. Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Tabke, which definitions in particular are you of concern with? I'm reading through this bill. Seems pretty standard, but I'd like to see if there's something in particular that you have.
Representative Tabke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and Representative Engen. So what this chapter has, this is chapter 169, and this chapter 169 has been added to and taken away from and built into something that it didn't start out as, for how this chapter was moving forward for e-bikes and for e-motos and for other things like that. And so the chapter has a lot of different conflicting definitions within that chapter, which makes some of these things. So this is what happens when the Class 3 e-bikes are functionally eliminated based on this language as we have it today. And so there are many things. That's one thing that we hope will happen in the future, is that this chapter 169 needs to have an overhaul on that. And so there's a lot of different definitions that need to work better. And so I hope that that is one thing that can happen in the future, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that. Would the representative continue to yield?
He'll yield. Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could you please tell me, Representative Tabke, on line 6.13, could you tell me how many watts, or I'm sorry, how many horsepowers is in 750 watts, or how many horsepowers are in 1,500 watts?
Representative Tabke.
Mr. Speaker, no, I cannot.
Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kind of proves my point. we have to know what we're talking about if we're going to object to a bill. 750 watts is 1 horsepower, 1,500 watts is 2 horsepowers. I think that not only should this bill pass so that we can prevent those tragedies, but we should know what we're talking about on the House floor if we're going to be passing legislation. This has obviously been vetted. It's been worked on for quite some time. It's been sitting on the General Register. We've in the past taken up legislation that has been on the General Register on the other side. Not that that matters in this particular instance, but I think this is pretty simple. This is pretty common sense, and we don't want to be sitting here a year from now wishing that we had done something about this. So I would urge a green vote.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I think the only member of this body who commutes via e-bike, I feel like I should speak on this bill. I do want to say and thank Representative Dippel for bringing something to address this issue. E-motos are a problem. We see it not only in the suburbs, but actually when I was on Nicollet Mall the other day, they were speeding down Nicollet Mall, and I was just like, wait, whoa, that should not be there. I agree that the classification in this chapter is not appropriate for what we have today on the roads, but how this bill is written, I don't think it's actually providing the clarification that we need. I think as we've even been talking about it, people are getting confused by the terminology being used. And so although I really appreciate the effort being put into this, I think we just need to work on it some more. And then one other thing, I just want to clarify that just testing another member on a unit conversion is not the best use of our time here in this body. So anyway, with that, Mr. Speaker, I will conclude. Thank you. Please vote no.
I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Koznick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I would urge you to support the motion to calendar this bill. It had at least one hearing in the House Transportation Committee. Oh, that's right. The author took back some concerns, worked on it with the concerns that were mentioned in committee, actually did the work. We don't see that all the time. So I congratulate and thank Representative Dippel for doing the important work, listening first to his constituents, come up with an issue, worked on it in the interim, then comes to the committee process, gets a hearing, some concerns are raised, he addresses them with the limited committee time that we had, comes back to the committee, we granted him another opportunity, some more time, and he addressed those concerns of the stakeholders adequately, and we passed it out of Transportation Committee. And so to those that are watching at home, because I think I know what's going to happen here in the chamber, Representative Dippel did the work exactly the way the process should be done. And now we hear some new objections, and we hear some objections without being able to clarify and tell us what those objections are in terms of some definitions that are in the bill. Representative Dippel did the work. This might not seem like it's super highest priority that we have in front of us tonight, but we have a little bit of time. And we're asking to calendar it tomorrow. He did the work. It's passed committee. The other body has taken action on this as well. It passed through Ways and Means as well to get to the floor. That one member who can't articulate what his actual concern is happens to be a co-chair of one of the committees that this was in, is now raising concerns and has blocked it from passing in the Rules Committee. It's pretty unfortunate when a member works so hard to address his constituents' needs and the partisanship breaks it down so that we can't address the needs of Minnesotans. Very unfortunate, but Representative Dippel, thank you again for your work on this bill. Those that worked with the special interest groups, if you're going to do a third close, love to share with the body what groups that you had to work with to come to compromise and revision to make sure that the language adequately met those concerns. But members, it's unfortunate if we don't take this bill up. So I urge you to support this motion and support Representative Dippel.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Dippel, thank you for bringing this bill. I think this chamber has heard a few bills from me in regards to how important this topic is, and I know other members have spoken to me as well about what they're seeing within their communities. And as a member of the Transportation Committee, I think one of the biggest things that we try to address is safety. And that's not just safety of people using cars, other modes of transportation, but also includes bikes, e-bikes, e-motos. And I just know that Representative Dippel put the time in, spoke to those organizations, spoke with law enforcement, and as the chair said, came back and this bill got voted out of committee. He put a lot of time and effort into this. And, for my communities, I see the videos from law enforcement of, the accidents that have taken place. And if we're really gonna be focused on safety in the Transportation Committee, this is a great opportunity to do that. And we can do this session, so I would ask everybody to support the motion.
Any further discussion? I recognize a member from Scott, Representative Tabke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the discussion on this. I wanted to make sure that everyone saw we have Egan has a really good handout for what differences are between Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, e-moto, bikes, and different things. So we have this. Most communities have something like this, and so what is happening is that there is a significant amount of confusion around the enforcement of e-bikes, e-motos, what can be on the sidewalk, what can't be on the sidewalk, how fast they can go, are they required to not exceed the speed limit, are they required to not exceed 28 miles an hour, wherever that may be. And I encourage you to talk to your community about information for your community, and there are again, I appreciate everyone's discussion on this, and as has been brought up, that there's confusion, I guess, around what the requests were for helping to get this. I have a text from April 20th, 10:06 a.m. That was sent to Representative Dippel to talk specifically about what those three needs are that needed to get fixed, and none of them have been addressed in this bill since it was left with transportation with the left Transportation Committee with the very clear directive that this bill still needed work, still needed to get things done, and that work hasn't been done all the way yet, and it's a really difficult task. And so I appreciate you starting on this work and getting there. Like I said, this chapter 169 is a very difficult chapter of law that has a lot of conflicting definitions, and this still needs some more work, and I ask for a no vote. So thank you very much.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Dippel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just wanted to correct the record on a couple of those different items. Those items were addressed, and they were addressed with the stakeholders that are absolute experts in the field. With the bike groups, this is their life. I mean, they could recite everything on here from memory, and these individuals said, hey, these 3 points, we can take care of them. Let's work through this. As I mentioned earlier, we drafted amendment language, and I worked very closely with very, very hardworking, nonpartisan staff who's sitting behind you, and they did an amazing job on the language, and we have that language, and those groups acknowledge that we have the language as well. Beyond that, I reached out to the environment chairs, and I was told, hey, if you talk to Chair Fisher as well and he's willing to hear this, then that would be great. And I got ghosted. I've heard nothing back. And that text message was sent shortly after the text message that you sent to me, the issues that needed to be taken care of. And I didn't hear back. And so, again, I would just point back to the politics of things that can get in the way of what is good for our state and our constituents. And it's frustrating when people are seriously injured and when people are in near accidents on a daily basis, when we have news coverage week after week after week on these issues, and we hear them from other states as well, and we can't put politics aside and bring this to the floor for a vote. That's really frustrating, and it's really frustrating to Minnesotans. That's what they get really tired of here at the Capitol. When we have a nonpartisan issue that is bipartisan in nature, and then it's made partisan, that brings up a lot of frustration with Minnesotans. I've got an email thread that's 72 emails long that addresses all of these concerns that were brought up. So it's all in writing, and it can all be looked back on. We can see all of that, and everybody knows that it's been done. And we all hear the same thing on the House floor, and we play all the same games day after day, and we bloviate, and we fill this place with a lot of hot air. And so here we are again, about ready to lift off to the moon. So I would urge members, put partisanship aside, do what's right for your constituents, and vote green. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on considering the calendaring of House File number 3785. Members, please vote. The Chief Clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Burkle.
Go.
Burkle votes aye.
Burkle votes aye. Davis.
Davis votes aye.
Davis votes aye. Momani Hildsley.
Momani Hildsley, no.
Momani Hildsley votes no.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 65 yeas and 68 nays, the motion does not prevail. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce that the Senate has concurred in and adopted the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File number 3432, an act relating to public safety. The Senate has repassed said bill in accordance with the recommendation report of the Conference Committee. Message is signed Thomas Boddern, Secretary of the Senate. Moller moves that the report of the Conference Committee on report on Senate File 3432, an act relating to public safety. The report is addressed to the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate, the Honorable Lisa M. Damas, Speaker of the House. We, the undersigned conferees for House File 3432, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute. What is it signed by? You got to get that for me. I don't know where to find it. So who is it signed by? How many? So what is it? It's 5 from where? The report is signed by 6 members of the House and 5 of the 5 members of the Senate. Moller moves that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File number 3432 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I now recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Moller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, as a member of the Conference Committee, you know how great this bill is, and so I can tell you're anxious to get to it. Members, the other body did accept most of the public safety portion of this bill. This bill will save many of the victim services programs throughout the state with that emergency funding that's so needed. We were able to fill the Philando Castile police training dollars The non-fatal shooting clearance grants is still included in this bill, and we also included the provisions of criminal penalties where we needed to close loopholes in a couple of laws. There's also still the Domestic Violence Task Force, and the Senate did add some funding for services for released adults and juveniles and for trafficking prevention. We did have a couple of language tweaks related to our public safety policy bill. Those are in regard to fraud investigations, the prediction market, and then the BCA requested some language to aid in child sexual abuse material investigations. For the safety and security portion of the bill, I believe that Chairs Liebling and Scott will talk about that when we get to third reading. And then the other security provisions in the bill remain strong and protect the public with BCA threat assessment investigators, Capitol ground security, statewide courthouse security grants as well. The Legislative Services Unit that was in this bill actually got stronger in a way that will really set them up for success. And then we also added some funding for security for the 3 constitutional officers. And we maintain the task force to examine long-term security needs. So that is a summary of the bill, and hope you can vote yes on the motion.
Is there any discussion on the conference committee report? I recognize the member from Sherburne, Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Chair Moller indicated, there are some very good things in this bill, and we have got the capital security portion of it down to the bare bones that we could, and the numbers are pretty incredible from what was proposed to what we got it to. And it is a workable agreement to continue forward for the safety of the staff and members here and the public when they come. And for that, I recommend that we adopt this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the adoption of the conference committee report signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 3432, as amended by conference.
Third reading. Discussion. I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative Engen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to note for the chamber that when we first heard this bill, when it came to the House floor, our side was fairly annoyed and frustrated that it didn't come after a comprehensive school safety infrastructure package. Now, mind you, we did get some school safety assurances that were in the global agreement, but simultaneously, it's pennies in comparison to what we're spending on capital security for ourselves. And also, it just so happened to come alongside the public safety bill, which had a lot of really good provisions in it that I wanted to vote yes on. Still do want to vote yes on. But it came forward together. It's kind of exploitive. This is what's wrong with politics, and this is what needs to change around this place, quite frankly. Because you have over $50 million for ourselves, for our own safety, and yet at most, for kids, there's about half of that, 21 million, and that's if you count in compensatory aid. Half? That's the best we could do? On the backs of enunciation, on the backs of all of the discussion on school safety that we've had this entire session, we give them half of what we give ourselves? That should frustrate everybody in here, but it should also motivate us to be better in the future. I hope that we are.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and just going to speak briefly to the judiciary portions of this, the judiciary security and safety pieces. We do have $4 million in one-time funding for the safe and secure courthouse grants, and those are grants that can go across the state, competitive grant process. There's quite a bit of pent-up demand for those security grants, safe and secure courthouse grants. And we also put some additional security funding toward the courts at all levels, the Supreme Court, the Appeals Court, and the district courts to provide them some personal technology safety pieces, much like what we have here in the House. and then some additional, they are standing up a protective unit, a safe and security unit of 2 full-time employees for the courts to kind of manage the courts like we have the folks with the gold ties here. So that's the judiciary portion of the bill. Thank you.
Further discussion. I recognize the member from Olmsted, Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Thank you, Chair Scott, and thank you to all the members of the Conference Committee. It was a pleasure working with everyone on the safety and security, some of which I didn't have a lot of knowledge about, but I feel like I learned a lot more and appreciate that. And just wanted to say that I think this is a really good result. After conference with the Senate, they obviously also are concerned about the safety of the judiciary. Members of this body know that our judiciary is very much under threat. And these are people who are really on the front lines every day dealing with some of the most difficult people in our state. So this is really important. The Senate agreed with us, and I feel like we've done a good job for the judiciary to put our judges in a better position to be safe. And that's important because we want them every day to do their jobs, to make decisions without fear or favor, certainly without thinking about what a decision might mean to their own personal security. So thank you, Chair Scott, for your partnership throughout this process, and to the other members of the Conference Committee. Please vote green.
Any further discussion? I recognize the member from Sherburne, Representative Novotny.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Engen, you're right. You're right. The numbers are there. The numbers can't lie. The numbers that would have been available if we accepted the first offer from the governor and subsequent offers that have come through, that is money that could have gone to school safety. But that is not what we had the ability to do. We worked the bill that we had. We did everything. This is a 3-part bill with some language, some clarifications that have gone on. I have talked in the past when we discussed parts of this bill about how important it is to support the domestic abuse advocates that go out in the field every day and night and get these domestic victims the help that they need to hopefully prevent the damaging family violence that has such long-term effects. I'm also very happy that we're taking the BCA language that makes it easier for investigators when they're doing child sexual assault material to do searches of hard drives in a quick manner so they can get this done. And for that reason and all the others, I recommend a green vote.
Further discussion? I recognize the author, the member from Ramsey, Representative Moller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Engen talked about disappointment regarding school safety, and I'll just remind the body that there's still an opportunity to vote for the most comprehensive school safety package in another bill that is hiding somewhere. But that isn't this bill, and this bill, as I have said repeatedly, is not just for legislators. It is much broader than that and provides statewide security. As Chair Scott just mentioned, courthouse security grants across the state. I talked about the BCA threat assessment that's included in this, and that's threats also against schools and places of worship and other large gatherings. This is a really great bill, and it's going to enhance public safety and provide much needed services to victims. I do also want to thank the Conference Committee, and I did a full thanks previously to members and staff with our public safety policy bill. I'm so grateful to all of you, and I will miss you. I also want to thank Matt Burris for his fantastic work on this bill. And I'd like to call out one more time my CA, Ellen McDaniel, researcher Zach Meinertz, and CLA Christian Lawrence. It's the best team that I could ask for. And for the last time that I'll be presenting a bill in this body, please vote green.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Davis.
Davis votes no.
Davis votes no. Momani Hildsley.
Momani Hildsley, aye.
Momani Hildsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 100 yeas and 34 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments the concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House file number 2433, an act relating to education finance. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodern, Secretary of the Senate. Youakim moves that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 2433 and that the bill repass as amended by the Senate.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Youakim.
Hello, members. Before you is House File 2433. It is a House file from last session that has been sent back to us by the Senate. The bill was sent over to the other body with the House Education Finance bill on it. But the other body did not get a bill across the finish line before the end of session, so it's back again with just two important bipartisan provisions on it. First is $10 million fill-in for compensatory aid that will help our school districts who are seeing a loss of a compensatory aid for the coming school year. I wish that it could have been a larger amount, but it is not a budget year. We will be getting the final recommendations for the compensatory aid task force this fall in time for the next budget cycle to help provide this funding stream a little bit more stability. The other provision in House File 2433 is language for schools across the state to implement an anonymous threat reporting system. Evidence has shown how important these systems can be when it comes to student safety and health, especially when they're paired with mental health supports and wraparound services for our students. There is a $5 million in grant money included to help set up these systems in our school districts, charter schools, intermediate districts, cooperatives who serve students, non-public schools, and tribal schools. These grants can be applied for through the School Safety Center within the Department of Public Safety.
Members, please take your conversations to the alcove or to the retiring room. Representative Youakim.
Thank you. I would like to thank all the members who had input into the anonymous threat reporting system section, and there are quite a few of you. And now I'd like to hand things over to Representative Raywauer, who worked on this section to describe it.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Raywauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is a negotiated agreement between all parties. The BCA, MDE, and MMB are all good with the bill. Thank you to Representative Lucy Ream for her partnership on anonymous threat reporting, and to Representatives Julie Green and Bianca Vernig for their extensive input and support, as well as Chair Youakim, Chair Kresha, and Rep. Bateberg for an effective working group. The Violence Prevention Project shared their in-depth research with us in the Education Finance Committee, and this is what we know. For mass school shootings where 4 or more are killed, shooters are insiders. Shooters are in crisis. Shooters tell others. This is why we must have a layered approach. One of those effective layers to keep our kids safe in schools is anonymous threat reporting systems. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension has a system available for school districts, and they could opt into this system immediately. This bill includes $4 million in grant funding and $1 million in staffing for the BCA, so that we have the expert staff there necessary to receive and analyze these threats. Sandy Hook Promise has data to prove the effectiveness of anonymous threat reporting systems. Their system has successfully prevented planned school shootings and has confirmed 1,269 young lives saved from suicide. Anonymous threat reporting systems are proven to work. This bill will save lives. Please vote green.
Is there further discussion on the motion to concur? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to concur, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 2433, as amended by the Senate.
Third reading. Discussion. I recognize a member from Anoka, Representative Engen.
I just make the point, members, that we just passed $26 million in this fiscal year and $24 million ongoing for security, physical security, for this very building, this place. And yet when I try to do it for schools, it gets talked down as if it's creating a prison out of them. $4 million for anonymous threat reporting. That's the best we could do. We should pat ourselves on the back, shouldn't we? Anonymous threat reporting. That's the best we could do. When we came into this session with one promise to ourselves, that we were going to give some safety and security to our kids. And this is the education finance bill, and you'll find $4 million in it. That's what the governor thinks of our schools. That's what the governor thinks of our students right now. We should be embarrassed. Completely embarrassed.
I recognize a member from Sherburne, Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This session had a straightforward goal: school safety for every student in every school, with options that were flexible and multi-layered. That was my one goal as we came into this session. I think that was a lot of our goal as we started this session out. As House Republicans, we offered a plan to provide $100 million for school safety. This included $52 million of ongoing funding. Mr. Speaker, when we offered this $100 million school safety plan in the Education Finance Committee, every DFL member voted against it.
Yep.
A few weeks ago, when we sought to bring a $100 million school safety plan to the House floor, Mr. Speaker, once again, every DFL member voted against it. As we look at what's provided to us this morning, or this evening, wow, this evening already. As we look at this evening, we realize that the DFL would only support $21 million for school safety in this session. All this time, all this discussion, only $21 million in school safety, and only for a one-time expense. Mr. Speaker, I guess $21 million is better than nothing. Put it in perspective, as we just heard, as we've just discussed, just to put it in perspective, $21 million is about half of what was offered in the public safety funding we just passed. Half of it. It's not what the goal was, not what we were looking for, not what our kids in our schools and our teachers deserve. But $21 million is better than nothing. Mr. Speaker, with this money, not all this money is in one bill either. Okay, it doesn't all come in this bill. It comes in several different forms. However, we do have funding to support students in public, non-public, as well as tribal schools. That's a good accomplishment. Every student, every school. The programs included in the agreement that we're looking at before us right now includes anonymous threat reporting systems. Now, this was fought for and argued for, debated for on behalf of Rep. Nadeau as well as Rep. Rayrauer. It includes mental health support in the forms of school-linked behavioral health grants, and also mobile crisis grants, which Republicans have long championed. Now, while this is significantly less than what I had anticipated, what I had advocated for, what we had hoped for on behalf of our schools, Mr. Speaker, these funds and programs will be available to one of the aspects that I fought very hard for: public, non-public, as well as tribal schools. Therefore, I'm glad to see that we have a school safety plan that does provide flexibility. It provides multi-layered approach. But the biggest part is this bill, although it lacks the amount of funding that I would have liked to have had in this bill, the one thing that it does do that was a major goal to be accomplished, I believe for each one of us in this session, is that every student in every school will be affected by the bill before us today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Wright, Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kind of picking up where Representative Engen left off, I just want to point out, because this gives us an opportunity, we're talking about school safety. This was our opportunity with this bill to do something meaningful about that, and we're not doing a whole lot. But that does give me an opportunity to talk back to or refute one of the things that I've heard said many, many, many times in committee and on this floor as regards to physical fortification of schools. It's been said that, well, most of these incidents that happen at a school are committed by somebody within the system, a student at that school, or somebody who's familiar, who's gone through the drills and is familiar with the system. And so they have this insider knowledge. It's like working at the bank before you rob it, right? Like they know where to go and what to do. I flinch every time I hear that point made, because what it indicates is, at best, that you don't actually know what these systems do and what they look like and how they function. I know at least one of you has. I know at least one of you has taken a tour of a school in the South Metro that has this system in place. And that member saw, as many of us have seen by taking the same tour, that we're talking about a system where at the push of a button, at the first sign of trouble, the school is locked down and unassailable. It becomes impossible for anybody to do harm to any student in that school with the push of a button. And it's not something that you would be able to circumvent by knowing about it. In addition to that, you probably won't know about it as a student. I'd be interested in talking to students and seeing how much they know about it. All they know is that there's a button there that you push if there's something goes wrong. Because it's not what you imagine and sometimes how it's portrayed, which is, oh, we're turning the schools into prisons. No. You have no idea when you walk into this school where the things are, where the barriers are, how the system functions. And even if you did know all of that, there's nothing you could possibly do to circumvent it. All you would know is exactly why you're not going to be able to do harm to anybody in that building. Now, this is something we've been talking about for quite a while, a few years. And for some reason, we just can't seem to get a serious conversation about it in this institution. Instead, we keep hearing the old, tired talking points about how the real problem is guns. We have a gun problem. Lots of drama about that this week in this House floor. But you have to ask yourself, like, if you're really concerned about harm being done to kids, which is the argument, right? What's the number one thing that kills kids in the United States? It's guns. We've heard that a dozen times. That's really a sincerely held concern. Why would you not seriously consider providing funding for a system that makes kids unassailable? I have a theory. Would Representative Engen yield for a question?
He will yield, Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Engen, would you care to share with the body your recollection of and your account of what happened with your SHIELD Act when you first introduced it in 2023, I believe it was? Specifically what I'm interested in is the engagement that you had with stakeholders, people on this floor, groups that are interested in school safety, broadly speaking, and how close you came to actually being able to get something done and why it didn't happen.
Representative Ingen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Hudson. I would gladly do that. I actually had bipartisan co-authors from this very floor. I know Representative Norris was a co-author, Representative Curran in the other chamber, Representative Hoffman, a number of Democrat legislators as well as in the House as well as the Senate were definitely on board with this. Not only that, but stakeholder groups. We like to talk a lot about friendly stakeholder groups. We want to make sure that we're engaging the people who work in these spaces, and so I made sure to do that. Up to and including the NRA and Moms Demand Action. A local chapter of the Moms Demand Action actually sent in a letter of support, only to withdraw it after being told to do so by a specific chair at the time of a committee in which the bill was first sent to. And so it became very, very obvious that partisan politics was the real game. It wasn't about providing school safety at all. If it was the wrong type of school safety, it might not be something that this body was super interested in hearing at the time under a full Democrat trifecta.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Ingen. Some potentially related facts. That was Representative Ingen's first term. He won in what, at the time, 640 votes, was what we call a swing district. Those get a lot of attention. Those tend to guide some of the processes and rhetoric that we use around here. And I seem to recall somebody said, we can't give Representative Ingen a win. So quite literally, we're talking about placing political concern and the balance of power in this House above the actual lives of kids. And it's been like that for 3 years now, almost 4 years now. This is our 4th year doing this. And I can't conceive of a benign and innocent justification for that. That bit, that's what gets me every time, the bit about Moms Demand Action. That local gal who was like, this protects my kid? Of course I want it. Sincerity. Understands the assignment, actually thinks that the purpose of the organization is to protect kids. That's what she believed in the moment. But she learned her lesson. She got her leash pulled. Can't be doing stuff that actually solves the problem. My God. How do we campaign? How do we make Republicans look like the vile, gun-toting maniacs who threaten everybody? Anyway, by virtue of the fact that this bill is before us now and yet again expends an opportunity to actually do something meaningful that's ready to go, currently deployed in schools today, protecting kids, the fact that we're not willing to do that for every child in Minnesota is a shame on this institution.
I recognize the member from Freeborn, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I want to speak in support of this bill. And I want to thank everybody on both sides of the aisle for coming together with this, because this is truly a bipartisan effort, and I appreciate that very much. I want to mention some of the things that are in this bill that we do have bipartisan support for to help keep our kids safer in schools. One, the anonymous threat reporting system. And Representative Rayrauer, thank you for your work on this, and Representative Nadeau as well. And it's something that was prominent in our Education Policy Committee, and I'm really happy to see it in here. Appreciate that. And then part of the package, too, is in different bills, but we've got the school-linked behavioral health grants and the mobile crisis units. Should we have put more funding into these efforts that we see here and in these other bills? Yes, we should. If we can put, about 50 million into protecting this Capitol building, and we as legislators, we should certainly be putting at least that much, probably double, for our kids, because they're our future. And I do fear that it makes it sound like we're somehow more important than our children are, and we are not. And so I'm sad that we don't have more funding for that. But I am happy to see this bill come forward, and I appreciate every member's work on it. I'm going to appreciate the votes that we see on that board when the time comes, and look forward to continued discussion and getting this bill passed and getting it to work for our kids. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members. And I'm standing to talk about the ARS component of this bill. First, I want to thank leadership. I want to thank, the leaders for taking this seriously. There's a lot of things that we don't agree on here, but there's a lot of things that we do. And when we can find those things that we do, it's so hard to keep the things that we don't from getting in the way. And so I want to thank Representative Rayrauer for the work that she did on this. I want to thank the chair, Chair Bennett, for allowing me to have a hearing, and I learned a lot from sitting in front of that committee for the first time. And members, I just want to talk a little bit about, what this provides. I mean, anonymous reporting system, and I'm not sure how many people are aware of what this does. I mean, it's a practice that's currently involved in a few schools right now. The city of Ramsey School District has this. And, one of the, provides this 24-hour app-based reporting system that's anonymous, that, it removes the fear of retaliation. And with school-age kids and even young parents, they have a fear that they're going to get themselves in trouble, they're going to get somebody in trouble. But this provides this platform that eliminates that. Most importantly to me, it's the early intervention. I spend a lot of my time, working in health and human services, and I work on some, criminal justice, juvenile diversion programs. We know that investing early, we know that getting in front of things help us. It's hard to measure that. It's hard to, this side, all sides. We struggle with measuring the impact of those investments, but we know that this is a system that is evidence-based, and the statute, our laws require us to implement evidence-based programs, or evidence-based system for this ARS system. The studies of the schools that have implemented ARS have clearly indicated that these schools have lower incidence of violent crime. And it's not just gun crime, it's all levels of crime. And that's part of the infrastructure that this is doing. And lastly, it provides actionable data that we're going to be able to use and inform and help build better infrastructure for our schools and our communities. There's businesses that have anonymous reporting systems, folks. This one is going to be integrated. Schools are going to be able to choose to use the BCA model. They're going to choose to build their own if they want. Again, it's the other component. The only other thing that I want to mention is that it creates this team within the school, and of course there's going to be that, those unfortunate souls that are going to have to be, kind of from the school district. Representative Hill might be on one of these teams at some point, or other teachers, depending on what they are. They're going to have to be available, not available 24 hours, but they're going to be notified if something happens, because teachers are the ones that have the relationships with kids. They've built these things over time, and that's part of what this system does. It builds these teams that surround these kids. It provides training, not just for the teams, but for teachers. It provides prevention education, lots of it, not just to teachers, but to students, to parents. It expands it, and it creates a community that says, you know what? We're going to work to protect one another. And I really, once again, want to thank leaders for being serious about this and investing a significant amount of resources for us to implement this program. If there's no other reason to vote for this bill, members, this is the reason. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize a member from Chisago, Representative Reimer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I too, I rise in support of this bill that we'll be voting on tonight. It's really been an honor to sit on the Education Finance Committee and learn about all the different perspectives of school safety. And I know we have a lot of differing opinions, and I know that this chamber can get heated about the way that we think we should approach school safety best. And overall, I know that none of us got exactly what we wanted in this package, but I personally appreciate that we are making progress on this issue, that there is a collective spirit that we all think that we need to make our schools more safe. With that said, it's not lost on me, and I'm going to make a point that other representatives have made, because the juxtaposition of voting on a comprehensive safety package for us in this building before making a decision on hardening our schools as targets is severely disappointing. And I spoke last time when we presented as an urgency Representative Lawrence's bill. I believe the bill number was 5015, and that to me was a comprehensive safety package that we had an opportunity to agree on. And there was all sorts of good provisions in that bill. I rue the day that we voted no on that bill, especially given that our safety package for those of us here in this building was taking from existing funds. And that bill that we talked about from Representative Lawrence, by and large, was taking money from a failed train project, something that we aren't going to pursue anyway. It's gone. That money was just burning a hole in our pocket, and we could have used it to really make an even bigger difference for our schools and keeping them safe. And the other thing that I just got to say is it feels like there is this constant wedge between non-public kids and public school kids and the way that we treat them in this body. And friends, Annunciation was a non-public school. It was. And so as we're making these determinations, we have to start thinking about our kids as kids in one bucket. We have to keep our kids safe. It is incumbent on us, all kids, public, non-public, including tribal schools as non-public schools. These are the stakes. And as I look back on my first session, as we finish up here in whatever it is, roughly 24 hours, I think I'll look back with a lot of great memories, but great shame. Great shame that we couldn't get comprehensive safety measures that we could all agree on for all of our kids. And great shame that we decided to prioritize our own safety before that of our kids. I hope Minnesota is watching this discussion tonight, the bills that we put through, the priorities that we have, because I've learned a lot about this chamber and how messed up our priorities can be sometimes. You know, I have a lot of people in my district and across the state that kind of get frustrated with this whole political process, that get frustrated with politics in general, because it's like, why can't you guys just agree on the things that you can agree on? And I think we missed several moments this session, this year and last year, to really show that, yes, there are heated things that we disagree on, that we are nowhere close to agreeing on. But there were lots of things. We heard from Representative Engen how a previous bill was squashed, a previous bill that did have bipartisan support, a previous bill that some of you toured Some of you toured the school and saw how effective that safety measure was. And for nothing but pure politics, we shut these measures down. So going forward, if the Lord blesses me to be here next year, that's something I really want to drive home, is there are common sense things that we missed the mark on. We saw bills earlier that there was seemingly no explanation, no logical explanation for why we shut it down, even though it was a good idea. I'm referencing Representative Dippel's bill. You knew it was a good idea. I knew it was a good idea. You knew that I knew it was a good idea, and we still decided to vote no on it for political reasons. So we have proposed a number of really good, comprehensive safety measures. And even though, like I said before, I will be supporting this bill, I think it gets us in the right direction. This work can't be done. It can't be done with this session because this is going to be an ongoing problem that we deal with. And if I say nothing else here, it was that we had good ideas. We had ideas that we agreed on. And from the sounds of it, this global agreement that we came to, there were untenable things tied to things that we agreed on. And it was almost positioned as if the things that we agreed on, that's a Republican position. And we'll negotiate against the things that we agree on. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that's what Minnesotans, frankly, are sick of. So for all of you, Republican and Democrat, who are returning to this chamber, who go through an election process in November and come back, that spirit of utilizing wedges for political advantages and not coming to the thing that we all agree on, and that's to keep our kids safe and beyond. So many other things that we agreed on and were used as political wedges. I hope that spirit doesn't return as many of you return. Thank you.
I recognize a member from Carver, Representative Ream.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the bill, but first I would like to start by thanking Representative Carrie Rayrauer for carrying the bill and doing all the work on it. Representative Kelly Moller for having the original bill. She worked on this bill in a previous session, and also Representative Cheryl Youakim for landing the proverbial plane. Really appreciate that. We know that the threats are coming from inside the school, so a lot of the school shootings that we're seeing are the result of current or former students who have gotten access to a gun and have gone on a shooting spree. So it's really important that we factor that in, that these are current students or former students, students who know the workings of the school that are often the shooters in these terrible shootings. Another point I wanted to make was that many times that the kids who are calling in to these anonymous threat reporting systems are kids who are not calling to report another student who they think might shoot up a school. They're calling because they themselves feel suicidal. They feel like they are possibly going to harm themselves. So these anonymous threat reporting systems not only prevent school shootings, they also prevent suicides, and that's been proven. There's been a comment about how this is not the best we can do. I wholeheartedly agree. This is not the best we could do. We could do a lot more. A lot more. The kids are not all right. They are scared, and they want us to take action. And they are watching. I heard yesterday, the kids are watching what we are doing in this body. There are more bills we could pass, and I still have hope. But right now, this is a great bill. This is a bill that has bipartisan support. The BCA is in favor of it. This bill will save lives. This is a win-win-win. I'm really excited that it will promote a public awareness campaign. I know in the Education Finance Committee, we had one of our chairs say that he wasn't even aware of the system that we have at the School Safety Center at the BCA, the say something, or see something, say something. So really important that we get all of our schools on board, all of the schools know about this program or the system, and all the students and the community members are aware of it so they can use it and we can save lives. So once again, the kids are watching, and I want everyone to vote green. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Moller, Representative Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. We've been saying from the beginning that school safety is something that we can bipartisanly agree upon. We've been saying from the beginning that this is a #1 priority, and at least over here on this side of the aisle, Republicans have been intentionally and specifically putting this as a priority by knowing that our first and last gavel was about school safety, trying to make sure that we have a multi-layer support, that we are looking at how we can support our students. We were steadfast in ensuring that all students in all schools, not just cherry picking, not just saying that only the ones that go to public schools, but that all students. And to the public that says that we shouldn't spend a single public dollar to non-public schools, well, surprise, it's already happening when we are doing feeding our children with the universal school meals, with textbooks, with transportation. It's already happening and has been happening for a long time. And if these are basic things, mental health and making sure that our schools are safe, if that is a basic provision that all of our students should have, then it has to be no matter what school you go to. No matter, we want every student in every school to be protected. And so we have been working and been trying to come to an agreement. And while I disagree with the amount, I would like to be able to see us at least match the amount that we're using for capital security. My goodness. I realize that making sure that we have school funding for these multi-layered approaches. I think it's important to understand that when I was in the classroom, especially when I would want to talk about how the classroom was running, one of the most effective things that I did was actually ask my students to come and talk about what are some of the rules and provisions that they would actually want to see. How could we come together, that we are a classroom of learners? I talked about what are some things that I expected of them, and I asked them what they expected of me. And it was really interesting to be able to come to a classroom and be able to engage with them, how we could come up with ideas for classroom management together. And one of the reasons we did that is because when students are involved in this, they take ownership of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like the anonymous threat reporting system the best, is that because it gives students a way to be involved and to feel empowered. When students see something, or when they're feeling something, or when they are concerned about something, this is a way for them to feel empowered because they are able to take action. Here is a place that they can put their concerns. No one's going to be judging them. No one's going to be laughing at them. This is a way for them to take action. And I think that being able to have this provision included in our school safety bill was really important, and I think was one of the most bipartisan provisions that we had. But one of the parts that make me the most frustrated is that we heard from several other people about how some schools have been already doing this. Where was MDE? Why wasn't MDE looking at what other schools were doing and saying, hey, if you are struggling with some of these things, here's what another school is doing. Why don't you come and try this? MDE is not supposed to be the state's school board. They're supposed to provide guidance and resources. Why weren't they on the front lines doing this already? Why did they have to wait? And why were they so resistant to make sure that other schools were not able to be included in this? They were thrilled to make sure that universal school meals were there, thrilled to make sure that we could talk about school safety. Why wasn't MDE being the leaders that they want to be on some of these things? We need to make sure that this type of provision is something that can empower our students, but also that we just have MDE do their job. I do appreciate that we have school-linked behavioral health grants and that we have a mobile crisis grant. When we looked at the Sandy Hook PowerPoint, it talked about the most evidence-based was braiding and connecting the anonymous reporting with other type of restorative practices and mental health services. You know, it's really important for us to be able to look at our students and say that as they are going through this incredibly difficult time with social media, with changes in their mind and bodies and hormones and all the things, I mean, man, middle school students are one of my favorite people in the whole world. They have such fun ideas, but yet they have such big feelings. And being able to have these services available for them is so important, especially as teachers are asking to be there for our students with very few resources. I think when we look at all the provisions in the bill, we really are trying to make sure that students are safe. Anonymous threat reporting, school-linked behavioral health grants, mobile crisis grants. We saw just earlier today the anti-grooming and maltreatment of minors. Just so excited that that got to be passed by itself. And then the compensatory revenue. Something that I really want to call out with this. Schools are asking to make sure that they are being able to be whole on this. Unfortunately, the decisions during their trifecta is one of the reasons why they're not whole. The reasons why is because students and families don't have a reason to fill out any of those forms. They don't have a reason for that. And they don't have, and direct certification is not catching everyone. And so while schools are dealing with the idea of losing money, this is kind of a new reality. And while we wait for compensatory revenue, the task force to come and talk about what we can do better with this, I think we need to call that out. I think we need to be able to say, yes, I want every school and every child to be fed. I think that's important. And yet, making this be something where now these students don't have to fill out these forms, it's affecting this money that was going to them. And also, let's just also be honest in the fact that compensatory revenue, we've poured millions and millions of dollars into that. And for good reasons, really good reasons. And yet, the gaps are not getting any smaller. We need to make sure that we are looking at how we're using compensatory revenue appropriately, instead of just continually dumping more money into something that apparently isn't working. And we see pockets of brightness. We see pockets of really good things that are happening. But honestly, we need to make sure that we're using compensatory revenue appropriately. And rather than just putting money into a place that just simply isn't doing the job, we need to be able to talk about what those recommendations will do so that we can use that money appropriately. Mr. Speaker, it's really important that we vote green on this bill, and I invite everyone to join me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Rayrauer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just one point of clarification. This bill is for all kids, all students. The $4 million in grant funding includes non-public schools, so I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you for listening, and please vote green.
I recognize the member from Scott, Representative Bakeberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Representative Rayrower already said it well. All kids, all schools. And when we say that, we're talking about every kid that goes to a public school, every kid that goes to a tribal school, every kid that goes to a charter school, every kid that goes to a non-public school. All kids, all schools should be safe. And that's what this agreement does. All of the provisions in this bill are going to all kids in all schools, and that's why I'm proud to support this bill. I'm proud to have worked in a bipartisan manner with a number of people on this bill, and I just want to give you just a practical perspective about what this will actually do in your school. So the mobile crisis units. There is a program in Scott County that we utilize called Canvas Mental Health, and we have had kids in crisis that there's a hotline that kids can call, and an individual, or actually two individuals, will respond to that kid in crisis to wherever that kid is at. So we are expanding mobile crisis mental health units at the tune of about $3.8 million. That's a good thing. All kids, all schools should have access to that. School Link behavioral mental health grants. This is one of the pieces that I'm really excited about this, because every Monday morning in my school we do a meeting with our crisis team, or with our student support team. And we talk about the kids that are in crisis, the kids that are struggling, the kids that are having a hard time. And one of the things that we often talk about is getting the kid access to mental health support. And we have a wonderful partnership with Scott County, where we have licensed mental health practitioners that come into the building. The problem that we always have is that we have a waiting list. We have more kids that need mental health support than we have adults that are trained to provide that support. So we will be able to expand that across our district to be able to help more kids. And another member said that kids are really struggling, and they are, for a whole host of reasons. The social media bill that we passed is going to help with that as well. And then the anonymous threat reporting. There were a lot of people, Republicans and Democrats, that put aside partisan politics, rolled up our sleeves, and just said we need to get this done. Representative Rayrower is the one that is carrying this bill. Representative Nadeau had the same version. Both of them had hearings for that. Representative Ream had a version of it. Representative Myers worked extensively. Representative Green, Representative Vernig, Representative Lawrence, myself, we all met and we talked about what can we do? What can we agree on? Let's focus on what we can agree on instead of just throwing bombs at each other, because frankly, that's not what our communities want. They want us to just solve problems. They want us to solve problems. So for those of you involved, thank you for doing that. Thank you for rolling up your sleeves, working together to solve problems. And to be very clear, in the anonymous threat reporting, one of the things that we had as a sticking point is a mandate. And we've talked a lot about mandates. And I won't go into all of it. Representative Youakim, I should have pointed you and Representative Krisha out for your work with this as well. But we were able to have just frank, honest conversations about what those mandates look like in our communities. And we were able to actually listen to each other. And we were able to come to a compromise that there is a must, which means a mandate, but we reference a later subdivision in the bill where it has to be reported on 3 different options that schools have. Their own plan, a locally developed plan, a one through the BCA, or you're not using any of those. And then there will be a report sent back to us so that we can communicate as the legislature about to those schools. Because when Representative Ream talked about someone that didn't know in committee about anonymous threat reporting, that was me. Okay, I've spent my career in schools, and I was not aware of anonymous threat reporting, and I've been serving here for 4 years. So if you think that schools don't know about this stuff, that is the reality. Because guess what? Guess what's happening right now in your schools? They're getting ready for graduation. Okay, your high schools, that's all they're focused on. The teachers are working like crazy to get those kids, those seniors, those last credits so that they can graduate. The counselors, the social workers, the administrators are working like crazy to work out all the details so every kid feels special on graduation. That's what's happening. They're not paying attention to what we're talking about. Newsflash. That's what they're focused on. So when we came into session, I was focused on school safety. If we got nothing else done, I would have been happy. Am I happy with this bill? Would I have wanted more? Absolutely. I would have wanted more. Representative Lawrence had a $100 million proposal. Absolutely would have wanted more. One of the things that we have to be honest about is that different schools have different needs. Representative Keeler came to my middle school, and we had a conversation around attendance and truancy, and we had just put in place, there you are, we had just put in place some new security protocols. So we had some window tinting up that when you're inside the building and you look out, you can see, but when you're outside the building looking in, you can't see. That was brand new this year. It's expensive. We have a new key card access system that interfaces across all of our buildings. It's expensive. It is physical security in the building, but schools need flexibility to do those things. So I would challenge you to go to your schools and ask them if they have physical needs to secure their buildings. Because one of the schools that I represent, they don't have a secure entrance. So the office is off in a distant spot in the building, so they don't have sight lines to the front door. That is a very common thing for our older buildings. So I would challenge you in the interim, go out to your schools and just ask them, are there things that could help? And then when we come back, those of us that are back, let's roll up our sleeves like we did on the anonymous threat reporting, like Representative Keeler and I did around attendance. And let's figure out what are those things that we can agree on. What are those things that we can agree on to be able to support mental health, to support the physical components in the building that are needed. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. That's the important piece. We have to give funding and flexibility to our schools so that they can determine what is best. The compensatory revenue is another positive piece. And some have said, well, Ben, how does this have anything to do with school security? But when kids are engaged in learning and they feel connected, they're going to be more successful as well. But we also have to recognize that our schools are facing significant financial barriers and burdens because of the changes made to direct certification and with the Universal Meals Program, because of the special education cuts. And yes, unemployment insurance, despite what we might be hearing from different people, over and over again I hear this summer, when schools are reimbursed, they're going to get a prorated amount. Okay, that was a choice that was made by this legislature, and that is going to lead to additional budget reductions for our schools next year. So I would highly encourage members to vote green. Could we have done more? Absolutely. Should we have done more? Absolutely. But I am proud to vote green on this bill because this is what we're able to do right now. Thank you, members. Vote green.
I recognize the member from Morrison, Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members. Thank you for the discussion. So I'll get a couple of the thank yous out of the way. Being a co-chair for this committee has been an absolute pleasure. Absolutely enjoyed the interaction of watching the committee members talk amongst themselves. And thank you to those members that sat on both sides of the table, that sat next to each other and had conversations, because that's where it starts. A journey of 10,000 steps, we've all heard it, begins with that very first step. And that started from day one with the committee and the interaction and the conversations. And the other thing that I want to say is, absolutely, when you pass legislation in a place like this, which is designed to stop legislation, that's what this place is designed to do. With 134 of us, with all the differences we have, getting something to this point is a very difficult task. And so no matter how big or small the bill is that gets here, we all should be very proud of the fact that it's here in this form and we're about to vote on it. And so with that, members, the nonpartisan staff has always, I mean, we thank them as much as we can, and we still don't thank them enough. Mr. Strom, Ms. Para, and Ms. I have the name written here, Beckel. And then I also want to thank our partisan staff. I'm sorry, Ms. Beckel, that was terrible. I had it written down too. Mr. Withers and Ms. Sirk Verinek. I wrote this down so I could get that right, but thank you, Polly. And to my co-chair, Chair Youakim, who we've traded texts, we've traded conversations, at all various times, and we've traded ideas. And I believe that was always done with the utmost genuineness and sincerity that, hey, we're going to deal with what's in front of us and we're going to deal with the conversations. And these were hard conversations. It's not a budget year. I think coming into it, the expectation was low that we would even get to take a first step. And so the fact that Representative Rayrauer, Representative Nadeau, were able to have the conversations they have and to bring us into a room where, frankly, we could have serious conversations about a very serious topic. And as you look at the rest of this bill, we are protecting students. And I think there was a genuineness to look after all the students. And it's unfortunate in the divisiveness sometimes that happens with the language around here, but the reality of it is every conversation I believe we had in committee, that committee was focused on how we could get to the students and the stories that we were hearing. This agreement provides what we could get possible for school safety. And I'm glad that it's not a zero. I'm glad that it's not just doing nothing and then pointing fingers. The speech, the conversations you've already heard and the items that were brought up, those already identify the hard work that was done. This plan includes that, the anonymous reporting. I want to speak about that very specifically for this. The process on how we got there and the members was phenomenal. We worked through that issue. It lays out some options. And what I really think is important is the schools, if you can just look at this and see the benefits it'll bring to you and show that, so I've got everybody looking here. If you can just get encouraged to do this, you'll show that we can do this the right way, we can get the school boards involved, and we can get the local communities behind you. And I think that's very, very important. The reporting piece back to telling MDE why you can or you will do this, that gives us an immense amount of information to be able to help implement this down the road. So members, a couple of specifics on the bill itself. $5 million for the anonymous reporting, $4 million in grants, $1 million to the BCA. $12.5 million for behavioral health grants. That provision will be in the health bill, but it was part of this discussion. 3.8 for the mobile crisis grants. These services work similar to 911, but summon mental health support instead of law enforcement. And from my time working in the child support area, one of the things that we know is when you're in crisis, not having a uniform can be all the difference on how that conversation happens. 1.4 for the anti-grooming maltreatment. All the hard work that went into that with Chair Bennett. Am I running out of time? Maybe the rest of you shouldn't have talked so much. I would have gotten my speech out. The last thing that I want to talk about is the little bit of a win we got on the $10 million for compensatory. We know that the schools have huge budgetary items coming with what's facing them, the imbalance in compensatory, and how they're going to manage the declining enrollment. This was a little bit of help of $10 million that brings the bottom up, and it is money that handles the problems for those impacted the most negatively. So again, I apologize we're running out of time. I didn't realize we were going to be this close, but I want to thank all the people that I've worked with. Chair Youakim, you have my respect, and members, I would vote green on this.
I recognize a member from Hennepin, Representative Youakim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for everybody, their wide-ranging conversation and caring about schooling, mental health, and crisis management teams. I'm so excited for your yes vote on the health bill, where those are at. And you all talked about really important things on a meaningful, comprehensive package of prevention, intervention, harm reduction. There are layers, and guess what? I have a bill for you. It's sitting in a drawer up there. We could pick that up and do all that right now. So with that, members, please vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The chief clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom votes aye. Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Davis. Davis. Momani Hildsley. Momani Hildsley.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 129 yeas and 3 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Messages from the Senate.
What happened?
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce that the Senate exceeds the request of the House for the reappointment of the Conference Committee on House File number 2438.
Mr. Speaker.
And re-reference said bill. House File number 2438, Act relating to transportation. The Senate has appointed as such committee Senators Rest, Dippel, Hemmingson Yeager, Hochschild, and Weber. Message assigned Thomas S. Boddern, Secretary of the Senate.
Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate File number 4515. The message is signed Thomas S. Boddern, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate bills.
First reading of Senate File number 4515, an act relating to lawful gambling, modifying certain prize and ticket limits. Nash moved that Senate File number 4515 and House File number 4090, now in the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for a comparison.
Mr. Speaker,
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
I move that the House meet past midnight.
All those in favor of the motion to continue past midnight signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion prevails. Member, the bill on the calendar for the day is House File 2354. The Chief Clerk will report the bill.
House File number 2354, an act relating to consumer protection, adding and modifying provisions governing medical assistance fraud.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Norris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, medical assistance fraud steals from hardworking taxpayers across Minnesota. It also steals money meant to provide care to low-income Minnesotans. That's disgraceful, and we're here to crack down on that today with this bill. This bill does three main things. First, it hires more investigators and prosecutors to fight Medicaid fraud in our state. Second, it stiffens penalties for those who commit Medicaid fraud. And three, it expands the definition of Medicaid fraud to encapsulate the more sophisticated schemes that we're seeing fraudsters use to try to steal from the public here in our state. One of the best things about this bill is the 3-to-1 match from the federal government. For every $1 that we contribute to the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, the federal government contributes 3. I call it the buy one fraud fighter, get 3 free plan. Simply put, this bill supports the work of catching people who steal from medical assistance and make sure that they are held accountable.
There's an amendment at the desk. The Chief Clerk will report the amendment.
Norris moves to amend House File Number 2354, the fourth engrossment. The amendment is coded A11.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Norris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment does 3 key things. First, it narrows the subpoena powers that are in the bill to match language that the GOP offered over in the other body. Second, it moves the appropriation to the general fund to match the leader agreement. And importantly, this is required to unlock the 3-to-1 match that I just referred to. And then finally, it includes some technical cross-reference changes that nonpartisan recommended.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Please vote yes.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment?
Roll call, Mr. Speaker.
Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Niska. The clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The clerk will call the name of the members voting remotely.
Acom.
Go ahead, vote aye. Vote aye.
Acom.
Vote aye.
Acom, aye.
Acom votes aye. Burkle.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Davis.
Go ahead, Ben.
Davis votes aye.
Davis votes aye. Momani Hiltsley.
Momani Hiltsley, aye.
Momani Hiltsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 134 yeas and 0 nays, the motion prevails. The amendment is adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The Chief Clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 2354, as amended.
Third reading. Discussion. I recognize the member from Rock, Representative Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is a bill that we've spent a lot of time on, several hearings in the Human Service Committee, several conversations with the Attorney General's office to try and get this into a form that is workable and supportable. And we're happy to see that we've gotten to that point in this bill and the work that was done for that, and would ask for your support this evening so that we can continue to make Minnesota a better state to root out fraud.
Any further discussion to the bill? I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Anoka, Representative Norris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a couple of thanks on this. First, want to thank my bipartisan authors on the bill. Second, want to thank 2 people I forgot to mention with the OIG bill a couple of days ago, Thomas Olson, my media specialist, Drew Jones, my LA, who have been critical in helping get both these bills passed. Let's keep fighting fraud, members. Vote green.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The Chief Clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Acom.
He's calling Acom right now. So
Acom, aye.
Acom votes aye. Burkle.
Here you go. Go.
Burkle, aye.
Burkle votes aye. Davis.
Members, please vote.
Go right.
No. Davis, no.
Davis votes no. Momani Hiltsley.
Momani Hiltsley, aye.
Momani Hiltsley votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll.
There's that. Oops.
There being 118 yeas and 16 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Niska moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The House stands adjourned.